After Benjamin and I were reborn, we silently pretended not to know each other. He followed the class beauty to study at a university in another city, while I stayed behind in our hometown. With the advantage of living an extra lifetime, he quickly climbed the ladder in his industry, married the beauty, and basked in glory. Meanwhile, I remained with my parents, settling comfortably into our old life. We met again 10 years later at a class reunion. He was there with Emma, his arm around her, a cigar in hand, glancing at me, dressed simply and smirking. "Is this what you've become after 10 years?" he mocked. I didn't react. Not until a late arriving business mogul wrapped his arm around me and said, "Sorry, my wife is pregnant, so I'd appreciate it if everyone could refrain from smoking indoors." For the usually calm and composed Benjamin, panic was visible to the naked eye. Only then did he realize that all these years apart hadn't driven me to seek revenge. My reunion with Benjamin happened at a class gathering. As I pushed open the door to the private room, I heard someone teasing him inside. "Benjamin, you've really done well for yourself, haven't you? You even got the class beauty." "Of course," he replied casually. "Just look at how well Benjamin is doing in the big city now. Unlike us, just common folk. How can we compare with Mr. Song, the big boss? But I heard you and Isabella were rumored to be a thing back then. You two often studied together, and everyone in class said you were a couple." At that moment I smiled indifferently. It had been 10 years since our rebirth, so there was no reason to feel anything anymore. So I calmly walked in. Even after a decade, I recognized Benjamin instantly. He was sitting on the sofa, smoking a cigar, with Emma nestled in his arms. The classmates surrounded them like fans admiring stars. The moment I entered, all eyes turned to me. The class monitor greeted me warmly. "Well, speak of the devil, Isabella, look who's here." Benjamin and I exchanged glances. He held Emma close, his eyes scanning me with a hint of disdain. Today I wore simple clothes and no makeup. I was pregnant, tired, and probably looked worn out. No comparison to Emma, dressed in Chanel, carrying a Hermes bag, perfectly made up. I greeted everyone politely. "Long time no see." Benjamin gave a slight nod, distant and cold. Emma offered only a faint smile, clearly not eager to be overly friendly. I turned away, joining some familiar classmates for conversation. "We're just missing Christopher," the class monitor suddenly said. "He texted, he'll be delayed because of his flight, so we shouldn't wait for him." Everyone gathered around the dining table, eagerly toasting Benjamin, lifting him high. After a few rounds of drinks, I went to the bathroom. On my way back, I ran into Benjamin. His face flushed from alcohol. He sneered. "Isabella, is this what you've become in the 10 years since you left me?" I remained unmoved, but I couldn't help remembering what had happened before our rebirth. Before we were reborn, Benjamin and I had a fierce argument on the highway. Back then, after graduating from university, I had followed him to the big city, working hard alongside him for a full 10 years. Now that we were finally seeing success, I wanted to return home. I'm an only child, and last year, my father passed away due to a cerebral hemorrhage because he wasn't taken to the hospital in time. My mother was alone now, and I couldn't stop worrying about her. Benjamin had promised that once we earned enough money, we'd go back. But now he kept delaying, saying there was no future back home and it wasn't worth returning. At most, we could bring my mother here to live with us. But she had visited before and hadn't adapted. No friends, no relatives. And honestly, even after all these years, I never felt a sense of belonging in that city. Finally, I snapped. "If you won't go back, I'll go back myself." "Do you have to force me like this?" Benjamin questioned. "What's so bad about staying in this city? Do you want to remain a country bumpkin all your life? Do you want our child to start life at a disadvantage?" I was 5 months pregnant at the time. Because of the pregnancy, I wanted to go back even more. I knew how hard it would be to leave once the child was born. Besides, our hometown wasn't bad at all. It wasn't as bleak as Benjamin painted it to be. So according to you, everyone who stays in a small city is useless. It's the useless people who are willing to eke out a living in small cities, muddling through life without ambition, he said disdainfully. I despise such people the most. In your mind, am I such a person? I sneered. I don't want you to become such a person, Benjamin replied righteously. Suddenly he added, had I known, I shouldn't have chosen to stay in our hometown for university with you back then. I wasted 4 years. I should have come here early with Emma to make my mark. Before graduation, Emma had confessed to him, but he rejected her. He and I had been study partners for 3 years and naturally developed feelings. But ever since he accompanied me to apply to our hometown university, he had repeated countless times over the past 14 years that he regretted it. Initially, I thought he was just joking, maybe indirectly telling me how much he liked me and how much he had sacrificed for me. Later, I realized he truly regretted it. So when we had a car accident and unexpectedly were both reborn on the day of college application submissions, he unhesitatingly followed Emma to a university in another city. I stayed in our hometown. We both knew the other had been reborn, yet we silently chose not to interfere with each other's lives. I thought we'd never cross paths again in this life. But now, seeing his demeanor, it was clear he had been waiting for me deliberately. Seeing my silence, he mocked. Now you finally understand what kind of progress you can make staying in your hometown. Look at yourself, then at our old classmates. Has anyone done well? But even if you regret it now, it's too late. I've decided to marry Emma. He showed off a sizable ring, a large diamond, probably 5 carats. I could tell at a glance because it was slightly smaller than the one I had at home. If you hadn't been so difficult, this ring would have been yours. Then congratulations to both of you, I replied indifferently, walking past him directly. I could feel Benjamin's displeased gaze behind me but didn't understand why he was unhappy. He had chosen his own path, living the life he had dreamed of in his past life. Did he really need to see me regret to feel satisfied? I returned to my seat and my phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, I answered. Have you landed? Yes, I'll be there shortly. If you're tired, maybe you shouldn't come. I can go back by myself later. How can I let my wife attend a reunion alone and go back by herself? I'll be there in 20 minutes. I smiled and hung up. Just as I put down my phone, Emma approached me. Isabella. Long time no see. Let me toast to you. I should thank you, she said with a smile. Benjamin told me that if you hadn't been his study partner back then, he wouldn't have gotten into a top-tier university. No need for thanks, we just helped each other. Regardless, you contributed to Benjamin's current success. I toast to you on his behalf. As she spoke, she tried to pour beer into my glass. I don't drink, I declined. Just a little. Ignoring my refusal, she poured anyway. I reached out to push her hand away. Ah! Emma suddenly screamed. Beer spilled onto her clothes and bag. She hurriedly grabbed napkins to wipe, complaining. My clothes and bag can't get wet. Other classmates, aware of the high value of her outfit, looked on nervously. After wiping for a while, Emma turned to me and said, Isabella, even if you're jealous of me, you shouldn't treat me like this. You've ruined my clothes and bag. Can you afford to compensate? Before I could say anything, Benjamin came over angrily. Isabella, you've gone too far. I didn't do it on purpose, I explained. It really wasn't intentional. I was just stopping Emma from pouring the drink. Somehow, the beer had spilled from her bottle onto her clothes. Just because I mentioned that Emma and I are getting married, you couldn't handle it, Benjamin mocked me in front of everyone. The classmates around us joined in. Really, I always thought Isabella was pretty calm, not the jealous type. People aren't always what they seem. The more someone acts like they don't care, the more they might actually care deep down. I heard Isabella and Benjamin used to be together, but they broke up when Benjamin went to university in another city. Now that Isabella sees how well Benjamin is doing, she probably regrets not leaving with him. I was speechless. Still, I patiently explained again. I really didn't mean it, and I told Emma that I don't drink. She insisted on pouring me a drink, and that's why this happened. I genuinely appreciate you helping Benjamin with his studies back then, and I hope you can let go of whatever feelings you're holding on to, Emma said sincerely. I know you've always had a soft spot for Benjamin. I was stunned. I looked at Emma, confused. What makes you think I still have feelings for Benjamin? Did I say something that made you misunderstand? Or was it something about my expression or my eyes today? Isabella, stop pretending, Emma said confidently. Benjamin is doing so well now. There's no way you don't regret it. I don't regret it, I said clearly, enunciating every word. Everyone makes their own choices, and I'm very satisfied with my life now. Benjamin sneered, clearly not believing me. I didn't want to explain any further. There was nothing to explain. We were people with no connection anymore. Today's encounter was just an accident. If I had known Benjamin would be here, I might have avoided this gathering. It's not about holding on to anything. There's just no need to meet people from a past life. People from the past should stay in the past. I'll compensate you for the clothes and bag, I said, not wanting to argue anymore. Send me the price and your bank account details, and I'll transfer the money. Compensate? Benjamin cut in. Do you even know how much Emma's clothes and bag cost? The outfit is 150,000 yuan, the bag is 300,000 yuan, not including accessories. I'll cut it down to 450,000 yuan for you. How are you going to pay for that? I took a deep breath, reminding myself not to get angry at Benjamin's condescending attitude. The doctor said pregnant women should maintain a good mood. I'm not that petty. If you apologize sincerely to Emma, we can let it go, Benjamin said magnanimously. An apology isn't enough, Emma quickly added. You need to promise in front of all our classmates that you'll never have any inappropriate thoughts about Benjamin again. Ha! I laughed. I was so angry it was almost amusing. Looking at Emma's arrogant demeanor, I picked up the half-empty beer bottle beside me. The doctor said pregnant women shouldn't get angry, but holding it in is worse. So slowly and deliberately, I poured the remaining beer all over Emma's clothes and bag. Emma was shocked. She stared at me in disbelief for a long moment before saying, Isabella, are you crazy? What are you doing? At the same time, Benjamin pulled Emma behind him and even pushed me. Thankfully, the class monitor quickly stepped in to protect me, standing between us to prevent Benjamin from doing something reckless. He tried to calm him down. Benjamin, don't get worked up, he said. Isabella, do you think I'm being too lenient? Benjamin snarled at me. How dare you treat Emma like this? Who do you think you are? I don't need you to be lenient, nor do I think I'm anyone special. I'm just myself, I replied coldly. Then I added, since I've agreed to pay for it, those clothes and that bag are mine now. How I treat them is my business. What does it matter to you? Can you even afford it? Benjamin asked harshly. Give me the bank account, I said, enunciating each word. Are you really willing to go bankrupt just to spite me? Isabella, if you had controlled your stubborn temper earlier, we wouldn't be in this situation, he said. Give me the bank account, I repeated, my voice firmer this time. Don't regret this, Benjamin warned. Benjamin, stop wasting time with her, Emma urged, fuming. If she's being so ungrateful, just give her the account number and see if she can actually pay. Without hesitation, Benjamin rattled off a string of numbers. I entered the details into my phone and tried to transfer the money, but the system notified me that my password was incorrect. I was sure that was the right password. I thought for a moment and tried another one, still wrong. I pressed my lips together. Was it really true that pregnancy makes you forgetful? Suddenly I couldn't remember. Benjamin and Emma stood by, waiting while our classmates watched, clearly enjoying the spectacle. Seeing that I wasn't able to transfer the money, Emma smirked. Isabella, weren't you just acting so proud? Where's the money? Why hasn't anything shown up in Benjamin's account? Benjamin held his phone, watching closely, but there was no notification of a deposit. I forgot my password, I explained. I was worried that if I tried again, the account would get locked. How convenient, Emma sneered sarcastically. Benjamin laughed disdainfully. The surrounding classmates whispered among themselves. I really thought Isabella was going to pay. I was already feeling sorry for her. Who would be that foolish? 450,000 yuan is half a house. Benjamin and Emma were willing to let it go, but Isabella just had to make it worse. Now she's really embarrassed, isn't she? She can't back out now. Emma asked coldly. So, are you going to write an IOU? How long will it take you to pay it off? A year? 2 years? Or a lifetime? 10 minutes, I said flatly. Christopher should be here by then. Stop pretending, Isabella. You can't afford to pay, Emma said, clearly out of patience. You should have just apologized earlier, but now you'll have to get on your knees and beg me. Everyone was waiting to see me make a fool of myself. But at that moment, the door suddenly swung open, accompanied by a familiar voice. Sorry I'm late. Christopher walked in. Everyone's attention turned toward him. He offered an apologetic smile. Sorry for being late, my flight was delayed. With that, he walked straight over to me. He took in the scene and noticed something was off. What's going on? It's just a small misunderstanding. The class monitor quickly tried to smooth things over, turning to Emma and Benjamin. We're all classmates. There's no need to make things so tense. Can't you just give me a bit of face? Class monitor, it's not about that, Emma said arrogantly. I wasn't even going to make a big deal out of this, but she insisted on pouring beer on me. No matter how forgiving I am, I deserve an explanation, don't I? Is that so? Christopher turned to me, a hint of a smile on his lips. Did you pour beer on her? Christopher, I heard you used to have a crush on Isabella back in school. Emma jumped in. I don't want to speak ill of her in front of you, but she's gone too far. Just because she's jealous that I'm with Benjamin, she deliberately caused trouble and ruined my clothes and bag. You've always come from a good family, so you should recognize the brands I'm wearing, right? Are you jealous of Emma? Christopher asked me, frowning. What do you think? I retorted. There's not much to be jealous of, Christopher said nonchalantly. Emma didn't like that. Christopher, don't tell me that after all these years, you still like Isabella? Yes, I do. That hasn't changed, Christopher admitted openly. The other classmates were shocked. None of them knew that Christopher and I were married. The truth is, Christopher had pursued me for many years, but I didn't agree to be with him until recently. I didn't want to go through another marriage like the one I had with Benjamin, where there were no major issues, but it felt suffocating. Later, I gradually realized that Christopher was different from Benjamin. I didn't need to keep living in the past. You have to look forward at some point. Plus, my parents had started urging me to get into a relationship and get married. So I agreed to date Christopher, and we registered our marriage earlier this year. Not long after we registered, I found out I was pregnant, so we postponed the wedding and hadn't had a chance to tell anyone yet. I only came to this reunion because of her, Christopher said directly, then turned to me. So, what's the situation now? I forgot my bank card password. Can you transfer 450,000 yuan to Benjamin's account to compensate Emma? I replied. Give me the account number, Christopher said, pulling out his phone. Emma was stunned. Benjamin's expression also visibly darkened. Christopher, this is between us and Isabella. You'd better not get involved, Emma protested. Isabella, this is too much. You ruined my clothes, and now you're making Christopher pay. Do you really think Christopher is some kind of fool? Just because he likes you, you're treating him like this. Emma continued. They all knew that Christopher came from a wealthy family. Back in high school, he was already being driven around in a Mercedes. I want to, Christopher said with a smug tone. If she needs me, I'm more than willing. Emma was so angry she couldn't even speak. She had intended to embarrass me, but instead she ended up looking foolish. Is this the account number? Christopher asked, confirming it with Benjamin after inputting the details. Benjamin glanced at it but said nothing, his face dark. Christopher didn't delay and transferred the money. Benjamin received a text notification confirming the deposit. Emma leaned over to check and said in disbelief, "Christopher, you really paid Isabella's 450,000 yuan? What else did you expect?" Christopher said impatiently, "Now that the money's been paid, can you please go back to your seat?" Emma gritted her teeth. She looked over at Benjamin, but he said nothing, his face still dark, and walked away. Emma quickly followed him back to their original seats. Benjamin grabbed the remaining cigar in front of him and started smoking again. The class monitor was trying to get everyone to eat and drink. Christopher sat beside me, frowning as he watched Benjamin smoke. "Sorry, Benjamin, but my wife is pregnant. Could you please not smoke indoors?" Christopher said casually. Benjamin paused. He didn't immediately register Christopher's words. Emma was equally surprised and quickly asked, "Your wife? Who's your wife? Isn't it obvious?" Christopher smiled lightly. He casually put his arm around me and introduced us confidently. "We just registered our marriage, so we haven't had the wedding yet. We didn't get a chance to tell everyone because Isabella unexpectedly got pregnant, so the wedding will be delayed." "You married Isabella?" Emma's voice went sharp. "Is there a problem?" Christopher asked Emma. Emma was instantly embarrassed, her face flushing with shame. Just moments ago, she had been arrogantly saying that I was jealous of her being with Benjamin and mocking me for having no money. But it was common knowledge that Christopher had been a standout even in school, not only because of his wealthy background but also because he consistently ranked at the top of the class. After graduating from university, he started his own business, and his current success in business wasn't any less than Benjamin's, perhaps even surpassing it. The only difference was that they had developed their careers in different cities, so they hadn't really crossed paths. But both of them must have heard of each other's achievements in their circles. That's why Emma was now so mortified. The way the surrounding classmates looked at her also changed. Suddenly, they saw her as someone who looked down on others based on money. Of course, I never intended to flaunt anything by being with Christopher. What I valued in him was never his wealth, status, or position, but rather that we were like-minded. Living through another life, I deeply understood how important it is for two people to share the same values. Otherwise, even the most beautiful love will eventually be buried in the grave of marriage. After Christopher announced our relationship, all our classmates eagerly toasted us. Christopher protectively said, "My wife can't drink alcohol, she can only have milk." "Got it. We wouldn't dream of acting like some people who use their money to bully others," one classmate quipped sarcastically. In an instant, the mood among the classmates shifted completely. Emma's face turned an even deeper shade of unpleasant. She looked at Benjamin with a pitiful expression, hoping he would say something on her behalf. But Benjamin wasn't even looking at her. Instead, his gaze was fixed directly on me. I didn't want to engage, but Benjamin's stare was making me uncomfortable, so I turned to meet his eyes. Benjamin's eyes were slightly red, as if he were very angry. I couldn't understand what he was so upset about. Isn't it best that everyone is doing well on their own now? Christopher seemed to notice Benjamin's look too. He chuckled lightly. "Is Mr. Song displeased with my marriage to Isabella?" Benjamin averted his gaze, crushed the cigar in his hand angrily, and drank his wine in silence. Christopher didn't waste any more time on him, instead wrapping his arm around me and joining our classmates. Everyone was congratulating us. They said that after so many years, Christopher had finally won me over. They also commented that Christopher and I were a perfect match made in heaven. The reunion was lively and cheerful, unaffected by the earlier unpleasant incident. In fact, with Christopher's arrival, the atmosphere improved even more. Everyone's attention was on Christopher and me, leaving Benjamin and Emma, who had previously been the center of attention, out in the cold. The two of them became unexpectedly low-key, and before the reunion even ended, Benjamin stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Emma hurriedly chased after him. "What's up with him suddenly getting all upset?" one classmate said, looking at Benjamin's retreating figure with confusion. Another classmate chimed in. "He probably thinks he's something special just because he's been in the big city for a few years. We were just being polite and giving him some face, and he actually thought he was some kind of big deal." I don't envy Benjamin at all. Sure, he's done well in the big city, but that doesn't mean he has to act all high and mighty around us like we're somehow beneath him. Exactly. Everyone has their own way of living, and no one is better than anyone else. The classmates were clearly annoyed with Benjamin's attitude today. But I was used to it. Benjamin had always looked down on people from small cities. He believed that people from small towns were inexperienced and on a different level. The night wrapped up with laughter, clinking glasses, and toasts to Christopher and me. The warmth of the room felt like a fresh start, like the air had been cleared of old ghosts and replaced with something lighter, something hopeful. Benjamin and Emma had vanished into the night long before dessert was served, their dramatic exit barely noticed amid the buzz of celebration. Christopher stayed by my side the entire evening, charming everyone with his wit and grace. He even managed to make the classmate who always boasted about his own success look humble for once. But more importantly, he reminded me why I chose him, not because of his money or status, but because he sees the world the way I do. Because when he looks at me, he doesn't see someone from a small town who didn't make it big. He sees me, Isabella, the girl who knows her worth, who's learned from the past, and who's building a future on her own terms. As we left the reunion, I glanced back one last time at the place where it all happened, the room that held 10 years of memories, regrets, and rebirths. I didn't feel anger anymore, not even sadness, just peace. And as if fate wanted to give me the final word, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Christopher. "You know," it read, "we never did finish that conversation about moving back to your hometown. I think it's time we start planning." Smiled. We drove off into the night, the city lights fading behind us. Somewhere out there, Benjamin might still be fuming, and Emma probably still thinks she won. But here, in this car, in this moment, I was already winning. Because life isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about finding someone who believes in you, even when the world doesn't. And I found mine.